Okay, thank you, Naomi. Welcome, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So, welcome again, everybody. I'm Massimo Crippa, and thank you for joining this second webinar today. Last week we talked about digital transformation, the value of APIs, and the need of an API management to govern and accelerate the digital process. Okay. So in this second webinar today, we will focus more on the capabilities of an API management and how an API management can enable your API program. Okay. So today, more and more enterprises are transforming digitally, and they are joining what is called the API economy. We saw that APIs are the digital glue that links services, that links applications and systems. This glue allow businesses to make the most of their assets and then create exceptional digital experiences and generate new revenue streams. But there is not a single path to the digital transformation. There are many ways to make your business digital. But there are also many pitfalls, many challenges, and rough paths. So, what are the steps of a successful digital journey? Well, a successful digital journey can only start with a clear API strategy. In your strategy, you first determine why. So, why are we exposing an API? What are the objectives of our API, of your API? So, for example, to enable a mobile strategy to drive an innovation or to reach new audiences, for example. Secondly, you have to define the what, okay? So identify which are your strategic assets. It's not important how many APIs you have, but to uncover which APIs have a tangible business value, okay? And then develop a clear path to get the most value from them. APIs will be successful only if your API offers something that is valuable. So be it a valuable service, for example. A great example here is Twilio. Okay, they offer messaging, voices, and texting services, voice service, and as I was saying, messaging service. Okay, or offering a valuable data. A lot of providers out there, they are offering traffic information or weather information. Okay, this is an example of valuable data. Or offering a valuable audience. Think at all the social network out there. They are a good example of valuable audience. They give you access to a valuable audience. Or a valuable functionality like you can imagine a Salesforce or a CRM online functionality, and in general, software as a service application, or to access to a valuable market. An example here can be all the e-commerce platform. And thirdly, to define your strategy, okay? So you have to think about who. So who is your audience, okay? It can be you and your company, and in this case, you have an internal API program where, for example, your main goal it can be to create a facade service to then increase the control that you have on your backend services. Or, for example, the audience, it can be your partners and your customers. In this case, you have a partner API program, okay? And normally you develop a partner API program to enable fast integration, to open up your companies and get new opportunities. And thirdly, you can have, for example, your audience can be everyone else out there. So you have, in this case, an open API. Then finally, when you answer the three questions, so what, why, and who, you also have to define what are the performance indicators for the API adoption. So in the end, you will have a strategy with a well-defined set of metrics to measure the success of your API program. Then, secondly, the strategy will require investments. You will have to invest in missing digital skills, and tools that help your company to govern and then go forward with the digital process. And then thirdly, the third key criteria for success is leadership. You need a strong leadership that drives the change right from the top, a leader with an outside-in approach, a leader that has the budget to transform the way of working. A sponsor that can focus on how technology can make a difference and not which technology to use in your API program. This type of leader can make the difficult process of transformation, because digital transformation is tough, it can make this process possible, okay? And here, last but not least, we touch the topic of the day, so the API management platform, the platform that can help your company to launch new APIs. But launching APIs, launching one API, multiple APIs, it's hard. It's not an easy thing, okay? So it's hard because when you start an API program, you need to make sure that your service is reliable, that it's secured, well-maintained, scalable, testable, and more, okay? A lot of different requirements. So rather than having an ad hoc implementation where you build all of those qualities in every single API, it's more efficient to handle them in a single and centralized API architecture. So this is the essence of an API management. So provide the means to compose, expose, secure, and then manage your API in a simple and affordable way, okay? It provides this central platform. It's a reliable platform, but it's also scalable for the future, and it's a platform that is ready for the future growth. Okay, so this central architecture, okay, enables not only the connection, okay, of technology, but also the growth of an ecosystem of API partners and producers. So a growth of a network of people, okay? So now, before exploring the capabilities of an API management platform, let's take a little time to see who are the main actors in the API program. So first, we have the API team. Okay, the API team is the core of any new API effort. They design, they create, and deliver new APIs. Then we have the API leader, who is the manager of the API initiative and the leader of the API team. So the API leader is aligned with the business leaders, because the business is the consumer for whom the API is being built. The API leader analyzes the performance indicator to then optimize and deliver a better digital experience as quickly as possible, and to keep the control of the full API program. Then we have the API publisher that are working very close to the API team, and sometimes can be considered a single team, part of the same team of the API guys, the API teams. So API publishers, they manage the life cycle of the API. They control how the API is exposed to the audience. So they take care of which asset, which services is exposed to whom. And finally, here we have the most important ones, the API consumers. So there is no API success if there are no consumers. So they are the audience of our API, of your APIs. They can be internal or external developers, can be partners, consumers, employees, affiliates, and so on. Then for all of these people that are involved in our API strategy, there is one single platform that you can see here in the middle of the slides that provides the right tools to succeed, the right tools for different teams. So the API capabilities span design and development, publishing and operation, documentation and testing, and finally, monitoring and analytics to measure, again, the success of your API. So now let's go more in details about those capabilities, okay? Starting from the API team, so starting from the design of our API, okay? So design. We might ask ourselves, does the API design matter? Let me say that an API can be your best business enabler, but also a big liability. A bad API structure, a bad user experience, if the API is not designed for maintainability, let me say, these things, it will lead to an endless queue of support calls and hence bad reputation. So yes, the design matter, it does, and the API management gives you the tool to define every aspect of your API from its endpoints to the operation. And then you can shape the data to the exactly size and the format that you need to make it better, to make the API, to make it more reusable for its audience, and also make it easier to integrate with other applications and partners. And very important point here, no matter what type of API you are designing, if it's internal, if it's for partner, if it's for an open audience, you should design those APIs as they were public. What does it mean? It means that your internal data model, and you should rethink the way your data is used from the outside in. So how your audience, how the people would like to use this API, how the people would like to use the data. So no matter what, how this data looks, how your backend data looks, okay? With this approach, as a result, you will compose a new facade, you will compose a new reusable services that can be used for many other use cases. And then it's about creating new versions of your service without impacting the current consumers that you have at this moment, okay? So, and you can then choose which version scheme you prefer. So it can be path, it can be query, it can be header or media type, okay? Whatever scheme you prefer. It's about supporting standard description formats like Swagger or OpenAPI specification, if recently rebranded with this new name. So then use this metadata format, so import the metadata, redesign the interface, and then finally generate the metadata out from your facade API. So all of these aspects it's in the design. So with a solid design, then you can have later a better documentation. That's fundamental. A second capability is to optimize your backend service, okay? For example, we know that REST is the de facto the standard for modern APIs, but many companies out there invested years and money in service architectures and SOAP services. So the API management platform can help to bridge the gap and break down the barriers between your on-premise SOAP-based solution and the modern application and solution that are more and more hosted in the cloud. So it's about adding new capabilities to your service, capability like response caching to improve the performance of your service or to reduce the latency and the bandwidth consumption. This is an example. And then an API management, it allows you to have interface mashups, then so extend the functionality of your API, combining output, so responses from multiple APIs, also externally in infrastructure, and combine, so take these responses and functionalities and combine it in a consistent way. To conclude, you can optimize, again, change and transform the behavior of your API using a central control panel. Now let's take a look at the capability number 3. Okay, so all of those APIs that are connecting enterprises with mobile apps, with solutions, services, and with a large community of developers, those application needs to be scalable and reliable, and absolutely they need to be secure. So security is the main concern of enterprises, right? So management platform gives you the possibility to add modern authentication and authorization mechanism like OpenID Connect, like OAuth, okay, in a central location. Okay, so you have, for example, your services, your API with a different authorization and authentication model. You can make it secure. You can use this modern way to authenticate in your central infrastructure using API management. So you can free your backend API to focus on the functionality, to focus on the business function. API management enables the API publisher to define a fine-grained authorization rules. Okay, so who can access which operation, which endpoint, which interface. In mind that when you expose an API, every single team becomes a potential denial of service attacker. So even your internal team. So because of this, you need to define service levels, quotas, and throttling policies. And then protection is a set of policies and control to protect your API against malicious attack, malformed messages, or for example, do validation of the content, so protect against excessive XML or JSON structure, and other protection measures like input validation, can be filtering, can be HTTP protections, and so on, and more other, let's say, algorithm to validate and protect your operation, your API. Then we move to the fourth capability. It's governance, absolutely important here. So how to manage your API and how to advance the API lifecycle with a simple management gesture. Okay, it's also about discoverability. You need an enterprise catalog to know what are the APIs that you are exposing, to get information about the availability of this API. So a way to easily and quickly find those APIs among hundreds of APIs. So search it by name, by categories, or for example, by tags. it's about package and publishes. So how to package the API, the functionalities that you have, and then publish to different customers in a controlled and automated way. It's how to bring agility and automation in the publishing process. Okay, so everything to have a quicker release cycle. So deliver faster your service, deliver having a faster life cycle of your API. Let's move on to community management. We are still talking here about API capabilities, and that's the number 5. So a successful API, again, is something, as we said, should be well designed, it should be easy to consume, it should be easy to understand, so it's tough to misuse it, and to achieve that, the documentation is absolutely crucial. Okay, but how can we share this information in an efficient way to our internal teams, to our partners, and to the external developer community? So the answer is the developer portal, which is a tool provided by API Management Solutions. So it's a medium, it's a communication medium between the API providers, so in this case, you, your company, and your consumers, your partners. It's a one-stop shop for partners and developers to discover all of the APIs that are exposed and to assure a good API adoption. It helps the audience of your API to understand the service first, the service that you are offering. Okay, what is if you're offering data? What is if you're offering a functionality? So what your API is doing. Okay, so the developer portal it assures a quick and easy onboarding procedure. So your developer, your partners can register and try out your APIs in minutes. Then it exposes a complete and interactive documentation, so and everything that enables developers, in general consumers, to be immediately productive. So they help him to hit the ground starting from the day one. So for example, here can be a getting started procedure, code samples, tutorials. So code, here I just put a time for the first hello world. So everything that help the external developer to try out the API in a few minutes. Okay, and it provides the tool again to test, but also to debug your API. And then it helps your company to attract, to engage, and then to retain the external developer communities and external consumers. Okay, and how it does it can attract, retain, and engage by providing an effective and open communication. So this is the place where you can find the change logs of your API, where you can, for example, discuss about the roadmap of your API, where you can provide the feedback and then get back the support for the API. Then here at the end, we have the monitoring and the analytics. So how is your API traffic, for example, trending over time? When question like when is the API response time fastest? When is it slowest? Are we able to attracting more developers? So an API management provides a robust tool set for not just telling if API is up and running, but actually delivering, if it's delivering the expected results. So the monitoring and the analytics provided by the platform includes visualization tools, includes reportings. You can filter your data. All of these interactive, let's say, tools to help you to analyze the data that flows across the API, that helps you to identify patterns and then fine-tune your API business model or the infrastructure with the aim, with the goal to understand what's going on and then to deliver a better digital experience. So you can get real-time analysis, you can get historical and aggregated report. So you get a 360-degree view of your API program. To recap, we went through all of these capabilities. So we talked about design, we talked about security, how to expose, how to govern your API, and to engage the consumers of the API. My conclusion here is short. So an API management gives you the tools to enable the API program, to connect the people, and then to measure the success of your strategy. All of those things without losing control, without having a strong governance of your assets. So the digital revolution is knocking at your door, and we better make sure to be prepared. Okay, thank you.